Hello, hello, and how are you? Today from Yellowstone Park in California, virtually speaking, I have a very special guest, my own wonderful nephew, Austin, who, Austinckerley, as I call him in Polish, please introduce yourself.
Hi, Chocha. It's great to be here.
Hi, hi. And I'm saying, because some people speaking Spanish, they must like, wow, chocha, wow.
Yeah, I've heard it before.
So this is in Polish. In Polish, I call him since, and I know him since he was born. Ostinkush, which is the sweet name from Austin. And he calls me chocha because that means end in Polish. So I'm giving you now the platform.
All right, so yeah, my name is Austin Kerley. I'm a environmental science major at Bloomsburg University. I'm currently in my senior year, finishing up in around May. And as of now, I'm looking to get into the environmental science field, whether it's consulting work, anything with environmental management, basically things doing with the outdoors. In my free time, I like going hiking, backpacking, anything I can do to get outside. I'm very active. And right now it's just getting out into the professional world, meeting new people and having new experiences.
Which is wonderful. And I honestly cannot even imagine you not being into sports and not being active. You
Yeah.
went with your dad, right? The men's trip to the Zion Park, wasn't it?
We went to Zion, Bryce Canyon, a few other places, lots of hiking, outdoor swimming. It was a great time. We went in the Narrows, walking through 4 feet of water with the canyons on either side. It was a great vacation.
Yes, and you just told me before we started when you've seen this, you noticed this Yellowstone Park. Like, yes, that's exactly with the family we're going this summertime, I guess, right?
Exactly, yeah.
This is unbelievable because this Yellowstone, yes, it's so much yellow. I don't know if you noticed, but also I love the idea these trees with the roots above the ground. Isn't that like trying to survive? That's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Yeah, when studying biology and ecology, it's amazing learning how the ecosystems work and how intertwined things are and how the species adapt to meet any kind of challenges they have, such as the roots going out of the ground, trying to get as much moisture and any chance of survival they can have.
So would you agree, or would you agree with what I think, that everything and everybody is actually connected on this globe?
Yeah, so as we've learned more about science in the past 100 years, we've learned that the earth is so connected both in our relationship to the plants and animals and vice versa. And we've learned that things, the plants speak, animals speak. We can't realize it as humans, we can't understand it, but as we get more advanced in technology, we realize just how interconnected we are. And we've seen it time and time again in national parks where if you introduce a species to a new ecosystem, it can radically change what happens. A classic example is when we reintroduced wolves back into Yellowstone and how much they changed the deer populations, how plants started regrowing again. Everything's connected, and it is like a circle of life.
I'm so happy that my own nephew will be working to help this Mother Earth, and that people in the environmental science, which when I hear science is facts, 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 research,
Yeah,
this is the pen, yes, this is something else, right? We have to name everything, we have to understand anything, and looking really, really close, right?
exactly.
Sometimes too close, so close in the past that we missed exactly what you started to say in the beginning. Plants talk, everything is alive. Uh, Mother Earth is a living being.
Yeah, a big thing in science is separating fact from fiction, like reason, all of that, like hard facts. And as we've learned, is that we put ourselves above everything else and viewed ourselves as stewards of the environment and of the planet. when in reality, as many ancient cultures have shown, we're actually just as intertwined. What we do to the environment will certainly have an effect on us. And as we advance further as a society and in science, we're beginning to see that more and more and more.
So you're saying what we give, it comes back to us.
Yeah, there's a strong reciprocity in natural systems and the environment.
So seeing what's going on right now, how can we improve on daily basis
So
life on this planet?
yeah, so for the individual person, it's always going to be more difficult since when it comes to pollution, environmental damage, most of it is as typical, it's big corporations. Like your average person isn't going to have a massive carbon footprint, but combating it through being conscious of what you do with the environment, recycling, voting for policies that you support and individuals you support with those policies, that's the big thing. But it's just every day trying to do whatever you can to combat the damage we're doing to our environment, just being a conscious citizen.
Living, you know, on the manual, when we're driving the car, not automatic, but on manual.
Yeah, definitely putting thought into what you do and realizing how much waste we produce, the benefits of being outdoors. There's just so much that we've separated ourselves from.
Exactly, because we're forgetting. We are like on a hamster's wheel, right? We're just going, getting up, eating, working, and shopping, and we're totally forgetting what's really important.
Yeah, the further we disconnect ourselves from the natural world, the more issues we see, and the more we see, especially lately, people returning back to nature, understanding the old ways, what Native Americans and many other cultures have been doing. And we just can't disconnect ourselves from the world that we are a part of.
Very good, very good. So now tell me exactly, like not exactly, but a little more about, this was 4 years of college, right?
Exactly.
What did you learn? Like what subjects? Because I guess it was many.
Yes, yeah, we covered a ton of things ranging from planning at the city level to soil sampling to geography, geology. Environmental science is a very all-encompassing division of science. It has things like geology, physics, chemistry, a lot of biology and ecology. So things ranging from national park and wildlife management to mapping software. It's a very all-encompassing science.
What is the difference between a regular park that I go almost every day and the national park? Why people love to go to those national parks so much?
So America, interestingly enough, we were the first to implement a national park system in the entire world, which was a great thing that we did. And national parks are parks that are created by the national government. They're managed by national agencies such as the National Park Service, the USDA Forest Service, things like that. State parks typically aren't as, I don't want to say great, but as impressive as national parks and are managed on a state level by state legislator and entities. So national parks are typically the pinnacle of what we have to offer versus state parks are more local and I don't want to say aren't as great, but aren't as well known.
Can we do in a national park what we can do in a regular park?
So parks will typically have their own rules, such as in some national parks and national wildlife refuges and such, you can hunt. It depends on the park. Typically hiking and sustainable activities are always encouraged. Some places you can ride horses, some places you can hunt, fish, etc. It's always just down to the national park's governing body.
Yeah, there are so many, like almost impossible to see them all.
Yeah, and we definitely have some of the greatest national parks and natural wonders in the world. North America is home to the most resource-rich areas in the entire globe, and we're very fortunate to be able to take advantage of them.
What was your favorite subject in the whole college?
For me, that's a good. For me, it was either the National Park and Wildlife Management courses I took, or a lot of the geography classes. The lower level of the major, we learned a lot about other cultures, geography and how it affects the land, geopolitics, things like that. Just kind of recognizing how so many things are tied to the earth around us and how they impact nations, individuals, cultures, everything.
So what's next? What's your favorite job now?
So ideally, going into the job market and graduating, I'm looking to get into consulting work. I want to take the skills I've learned and picked up through my college major, environmental science, and apply it in the real world, talking about how we can fix things, how to improve certain natural areas, how companies can take advantage of green incentives, be more eco-friendly, just anything to kind of help benefit the natural world and ourselves at the same time.
Uh, because we have many kind of ways to go from your school, right? Either it's
Yes.
consulting, then it's a research, probably lab, some kind of taking from a soil, something,
Soil
right?
samples, water samples.
Right.
Yeah.
And also you can be traveling.
Yeah, there's so many, as I'm realizing as I'm graduating, there's so many routes to go with this, whether it's the more hard science route or in the consulting. There's some things as simple as environmental technician work, which is just helping with sewage, wastewater management, wetland delineation. It's such a wide and like all-encompassing discipline, which was one of the great things I learned when I swapped from an economics major to an environmental science major.
Yeah, because you started with something else and then you said, it's all good, fine and dandy, right? But Mother Earth is number one.
Exactly. I still managed to keep the economics minor, and I'm still like I have a place in the business world, but environmental science was definitely my calling.
Yeah, because I always say, yes, we may have many homes, many expensive fast cars, a lot of money, great investments. But if we don't have two things, clean water that we can actually drink and fresh air that we can breathe, we have nothing. We're done.
Exactly, yeah. And people are beginning to realize it, and not even individuals, but corporations are realizing that you can damage the earth and take advantage of things for the short time being, but eventually it's going to catch up to you, and people are becoming more conscious of that and realizing that sustainable growth is what's better in the long term.
That's right. So what else you would like to share with me and then with everybody else, whoever listens? Because I tell you, I wouldn't even know what exact question to ask you. And we didn't discuss before this program what exactly you want to talk about. So um, what is important for us to know? What would you like to add?
I think that the biggest thing that I've learned both in my major and working with other students, professors, and colleagues is just how expansive of a discipline this is. There's environmental economists, there's environmental planners, and it's we're beginning to realize as we become more advanced as a society that we're tied to the earth around us totally. And as people learn more and more, there's more positions and more opportunities and benefits of keeping these things in mind. So if you want to have change for the greater planet Earth at the local level or your individual level, just being a conscious consumer, keeping environmental policies in mind, green energy, there's so much to it that most people will, I don't want to say will never hear about, but don't know about and have to learn themselves. And that was one of the big things is the self-education and realizing what environmental policy and environmental, I guess, discipline can bring. I didn't even realize it until recently when I was applying for some positions, is that there's tax incentives for having green energy or green energy systems in your building. So having tall standing windows allows more natural light in, lowers your carbon footprint. Things like having more efficient lighting, all of this is things that businesses can take advantage of that most people don't even know about. So it's a very new discipline that people are just now realizing how not only does it benefit themselves and their businesses, but also the planet as a whole. And there's reason why the government and places are incentivizing these things.
What do you think about green energy and green jobs?
I definitely think green energy is the future, even from a pure economic standpoint. If you look, green energy is the way to go. Certain countries are almost entirely green energy. Of course, they're much smaller than us. But if you can set up solar panels and the upkeep is very low, there's great opportunity costs. You can, it just makes sense to do. And that's why there's been more and more push for these green energy solutions. There's the easier ones to implement are solar panels and taking advantage of wind. They're the two most abundant. And of course, people will combat that with what if there's no sun? What if there's no wind? It's a foggy day, whatever. What they don't realize is that once the systems are in place, it's effectively free energy. There's always going to be the sun, there's always going to be some wind. And it's just what is the return on investment that these green systems offer?
Do you think we're gonna have lower bills for the energy in the future?
That all depends on where our government and business policy takes us, because currently America is one of the most resource-rich nations in the world, and there's little incentive to swap to green energy when you can take advantage of oil, natural gas that we already have. But as people begin to realize that stuff won't last forever and we will run out, then they'll start implementing these green systems, which I definitely think 100% that will lower energy costs in the long run. It's just getting and transitioning to this new age that is the difficult part.
Do you believe that the water level is going up? What did you learn in your college?
Do you mean as in total Earth?
About global warming.
Okay. So global warming is definitely, it's a real phenomenon. The big debate is whether or not or how much humans are impacting it, which I definitely think we have a big part in. So Earth is typically a closed circuit system, meaning that things don't leave our planet. Like the water level will never, should never actually change. It's just where that water is going and how it's getting there and what speeds. So unfortunately, I'm in the United States. We don't really have to worry about that too much. Some areas, more arid regions such as California, are having troubles. And that's why legislators and businesses and scientists are taking a look and saying, how can we operate on a more sustainable level so we don't have these shortages? But global warming is definitely happening. That's not really much of a debate. It's just how much are we affecting it? And we as in not as much the individual consumers, but big corporations that cause a lot of the pollution and damage.
Mm-hmm. Because there's so many activists when it comes to climate change, and people really getting more and more up to speed that if we don't do something, like for example, there are some countries that they would cut the trees without thinking even twice, and then don't believe in the green stuff and organic stuff and really eating well and being healthy. And then they surprised that, they're not healthy. They're not living
Exactly.
well.
Yeah, people are beginning to realize that you cannot separate a society or the individual from the environment. There's no escaping it. People want to go back to nature. There's a reason why so many cities and businesses are incorporating greenways and green belts. And it's people want clean air. They want to be around trees, grass. Science has shown that just being outside makes us happy. It's almost as if it's a natural antidepressant. Like when I go outside or before I have a big meeting like this, I just take a few moments, relax, and you most people can feel how much it rejuvenates them. Our body is trained to be happy outdoors. It's what we were originally intended to do, and that's what people are trying to get back to.
The sunshine. Did you
Thank you.
learn about that? How wonderful is when you outside, vitamin D3 and all that stuff. Did you?
Yeah, definitely the big one is the vitamin D we get from it. Everyone knows that like the sun obviously is what allows Earth to have life. We're not just some barren rock. The sun is it's basically everything. Without it, there would be nothing. There'd be no us. And we need to keep that in mind, is that there's a reason we're supposed to be outdoors, and we need to be protecting the outdoors, because without it, then there's no future, good
No,
future.
that's right. It's no future,
Yeah.
no life on the horizon. if we don't protect what is so dear, life itself. And the next thing, we all connected,
Exactly.
all of us, because you see, usually people think, oh, I'm the only one here, it means nothing. But even what we're saying, what we're doing individually in the little groups, that is like a wave, right? And then sooner or later, the wave comes back.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
once we're talking about the waves, I don't know why, but I always see when the waves going, right, like into the ocean,
Mhm.
and what we're dumping in the ocean, the garbage.
Yeah, I'm sure people have heard about the trash islands, and there's a lot of bleak outlook on the environment and the oceans and what we're doing to them. But the key takeaway is that we can always come back. If you pour pollutants into a river, which obviously you should never do, but the natural cycle can cycle out pollutants in certain levels. If you throw a piece of trash in a river, that's not going to obviously completely destabilize the ecosystem. But if you continue to do that and in levels that the environment can't naturally filter out, that's when issues arise. And that's the big thing, is we need to tone down our damage to the ecosystem and the earth as a whole, because 100 years ago, there wasn't this big worry because we weren't producing that much. But now with plastics and how much we consume and waste, the environment can't break it all down. It can't keep up. And that's why when sewage goes into rivers, that's the best example, is small amounts, the rivers will naturally filtrate and break down. But if there's too much, then it can't deal with it all. And that's when there's real problems.
And that's why in every store, the plastic bags should be forbidden once and for all. When I lived in Maui, that there was no plastic bags, only paper bags, right? Or whatever you have your own, bringing, taking stuff and going home. So I hope that this will happen sooner than it should, because you would think everybody knows about the problem, right? Like this is nothing new what we say.
Yeah, the big thing is it's a matter of economics, and plastic is cheap. So you don't have to really like, if you separate yourself from the environment as we have, you don't worry about the secondary cost. It's because we've separated ourselves that we're willing to justify wasting so much and causing problems.
So again, thinking about what we're doing.
Exactly, yeah. Being
Now,
conscious and understanding that we are going to be tied to the environment. There's no breaking away from that. And it's definitely not too late. We can still get back on track, and the earth will fix itself to a certain degree. We just have to allow it to catch up to what we've done.
yes. Would you agree that is more and more people and many cars and more of everything then, more pollution?
So again, like with the too many cars, too many people, I would bring it back to if you pollute just a tiny amount into a river and in small quantities, the river and the natural system will filtrate that out and can handle it. But when you have too many people in a small, certain concentrated area, or too many cars, the natural systems can't act and things are going to break down. And that's when we see real issues. So in countries like China, India, there's so many people in this concentrated area, and the natural systems can't accommodate that. So it's not as much having less people, it's we need to have more people in certain areas and less in others. We need to spread out more so the earth can handle it. We're putting too much strain on certain fragile ecosystems when there's plenty of space that can handle it. And that's when economics come in, because there's not a lot of opportunities in these other areas. Like if you go to Wyoming, there's not a lot of work opportunities there. And so there's little
That's why
incentive.
people don't go there, right? That's why they don't want to be there. Also climate, because some people like when it's warm, the other people don't like when it's raining. So in some, parts of just the United States are more interesting, and the others like, no, thank you. So even when you want a job and you get the job there, they pay you more because they want you there, right? They can promise you more.
Exactly.
So when you do, what areas in the United States is most favorable when it comes to your needs? Where would you like to be?
On a personal level, I love Colorado and Montana. I love the landscapes there, the environment, the temperature, everything about it. But in terms of environmental scientists and where like environmental science disciplines are needed, it's definitely California with their wildfires and their droughts. It's all along the East Coast where wetlands, which are one of the most important ecological systems, are extremely threatened by development because they're very fragile ecosystems that even small changes and something as simple as the pH level can have huge effects and wipe out populations. But also just as a discipline anywhere, we're going to need environmental planners and consultants because we're realizing that you can't just build a new building in a lot of land. Like there could be endangered species. We don't know how it'll affect the local population, the groundwater quality. There's so much that we're just now beginning to understand that matters.
I'm so glad you are in a family, a future scientist.
Yeah.
That sounds great. And the issues that are the most important, really, honestly, medicine, everything is important. But
Yep.
when will be no life, or when really will be no water to drink or air to breathe, then it's all meaningless. So thank you very much for
Of
this
course.
meeting. Thank you very much for doing what you're doing and where you're going. I tell you this much. Whoever will get you to work for him, her, whatever you're going to be, they are one lucky people.
Thank you. That's very nice.
I almost choke on my tears here. Uh, and I'm gonna end with this beautiful quote from Samurai God when they were talking about the Yosemite Park in California. This is the place to wash the spirit clean. And that's what this whole thing in environmental science is all about, right?
Yep, exactly. That's we're not above or below. We're exactly on the same level as everything else, whether or not we recognize it.
So thank you very much. Mwah! Sending you many kisses, hugs, and thank you very much. Good luck. I know you're gonna be doing well. You're so ambitious. You're so wonderful since you were born, the best kid, besides my son. You too. Wonderful. And talk to you soon.
Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.